As we continue here, we just have one day of July left. And as we look at our July summary, we do have some small deficits there. Small when it comes to the average temperature. They're only by less than a degree, so no big concerns to draw any attention there. And then precipitation, though, is our bigger number there, where we're more than a half an inch below normal. And that is feeding into what has already been a very below normal summer for precipitation. So this is a number we are watching. But here for our final day of July, what we are dealing with is very seasonal conditions temperature wise. We are not seeing that any precipitation is going to be put on the board, but we will keep an eye on potentially next week. But here, as we head into our first weekend of August, we are returning to some of that heat where we are watching upper 90s, potentially some triple digits will be on the board where some record potential may be mentioned. But we will see that as that heat builds into the weekend, we're also going to be building into some moisture, and it definitely is some much needed rains. As mentioned, we have a deficit that has been building for this summer, and as we head into our final month of summer, we're going to keep an eye on that possibility for next week, and we'll look into that here in just a moment. But for the time being here, looking into our Wednesday here, it is another day of some sunshine, though the skies are going to look less hazy as we see that the frontal system that dropped in, bringing us some relief in some of that big heat, is continuing with northwesterly flow, clearing out those skies and keeping us with some brighter sunshine. We still top off into the upper 80s, low 90s, but that's where we should be this time of the year. It's when we head into those upper 90s where it is a little bit more unseasonable warmth that takes over, especially here as we roll into August and September. Some of these highs can be those records on the board. So we mentioned that haze, but near normal temperatures anywhere from that upper 80 threshold here into Casper, 88 into Sheridan, Worland at 87, Rock Springs at 84, much of east of the divide looking at generally mid 80s to about those upper 80s. Now, as we head into Thursday, the heat is quickly taking hold again. We are noting that we have highs at least hitting those low, even mid 90s there possible from Douglas through Torrington. So the heat is going to rebuild starting Thursday, lasting into the weekend. Now, we'll keep an eye on any fire weather concerns as we are noting that with that heat building Thursday and Friday and dew points into those 30s, that could bring some concern of some fire weather. But we do watch that the increase in those dew points takes hold as we head towards the weekend. And that's where we're watching for at least some isolated storm chances, but more of that outlook that brings us into that first full week of August, which is next week. There is that darker green shading there across Wyoming and Colorado. That's some good news of some potential beneficial rains to move into the state. And again, we have big drought concerns, so this is something we like to see. How will that formulate? That is still in question. So we're watching that trend for next week. Here for the time being, though, again, it is still all about that heat, at least those mid to upper 90s Friday through Sunday, nearing some of those records. And then we'll start to see that pattern, it's bringing its breakdown as we head into next week.